After being reborn, I no longer constantly worry about where KGU has gone, nor do I make a fuss because he donates all his allowance to the widows of his fallen comrades, and I certainly wouldn't threaten suicide just because he wants to postpone getting our marriage certificate. I thought this would be enough, but then he asked me to give up the regular employee quota at the cotton mill to someone else. He said, "Rory is raising a child alone. It's not easy, as the wife of a cadre. You should have this level of awareness. Don't be so petty." I smiled and nodded, telling him I would. Then I immediately glanced at the calendar on the wall. Soon, I'll be heading south for college. As for the cotton mill, it's just 2 years away from facing massive layoffs. It's just giving the canned fruit that the team just distributed to Rory and her mother. Why are you so angry about it? She's a woman who just lost her husband and is raising a child alone. How can you not be more considerate? When Juanli left, the only thing he couldn't let go of was his wife and daughter. If I don't step up to help them now, how could I ever face him again? Seeing the familiar can of fruit in KGU's hand, my hands trembled uncontrollably. This scene before me made it clear, this was the second chance the heavens had given me, recalling the tragic scene of my death in my past life. My heart aches faintly. In everyone's eyes, I am unworthy of KGU, whether it's family background or appearance. I am worlds apart from him. He is a battalion commander who returned with military honors, and I am just a powerless orphan girl from a mountain village. If it weren't for the life and death bond between my grandfather and the GU family, and his dying wish to arrange a marriage contract between me and KGU, we were never meant to cross paths. Now, it's my 3rd year living under the GU family's roof. It was also the year KGU was supposed to fulfill the marriage agreement with me. But not long before, Han Jianye, the husband of Rory Yao, sacrificed himself in the line of duty to complete a mission. Before his death, KGU promised to take care of Rory Yao and her daughter for the rest of their lives. It was his vow, and in my past life, to be with KGU. I gave up the opportunity to study at a state-sponsored university and toiled for him for over 40 years, trapped in the confines of the GU family for a lifetime, serving in-laws and raising children. Yet on my deathbed, I saw KGU holding Rory Yao's hand, preparing for their golden wedding celebration. And the son I raised with my own hands secretly married her daughter behind my back, even turning their family of 4 story into a drama, all to celebrate a reunion that excluded me. In that moment, the disdain of my in-laws, the neglect of my husband, and the contempt of my son, I feel so resentful. Why is it that when my in-laws were bedridden, I took care of them day and night, only to have my husband indulge in affairs outside? Why is it that the son I risked my life to bring into this world and raised would later force me to sign divorce papers, saying I'm not worthy of his father, and why should I waste my entire life for them in vain, with my last breath? I arrived at the university gate. I wondered, if I hadn't married KGU, would things have turned out differently? But before I could finish that thought, my breath was gone. When I opened my eyes again, the heavens gave me a second chance. I was reborn before being sent abroad to study. There's still time for everything. I looked at KGU, who was earnestly advising me before my eyes burning red. I got it. You can give the canned food to them. KGU was clearly taken aback, covering the corner of his mouth with a clenched fist and coughing lightly twice. Don't worry, next time, I won't take it away again. This line, I'm familiar with, just like in my past life when they forced me to give up my room. I didn't respond to him. Nor did I bother to explain that the canned food was prescribed by my doctor for my recent respiratory issues. Instead, I turned and walked out. The calendar on the wall showed that today should be the final day for registration. Now, the admission letter hasn't arrived yet, and all mistakes return to square one, but I have the chance to set everything right. This time, I absolutely won't be foolish for a lifetime. Chapter 2, I jogged all the way and hurried to the office of the factory director. Director, I've made up my mind. I want to go to university. The director looked shocked, then asked tentatively, Are you sure? If you go, it'll be 5 years before you can return, and it's in the south. Though you're the most skilled in our factory, and it's a shame to lose you, it's understandable if you can't bear to leave since you're about to marry Battalion Commander GU. Everyone thought I wouldn't leave KGU to go to school in the south, but having lived a second life, how could I possibly stop for him and waste my entire life? Director, I've thought it through clearly. I want to go to school. As for KGU, he must want me to become better too. In the end, the director agreed. They said the admission letter and train ticket would be given to me in a couple of days, urging me to hurry home and pack. As I had only 1 week left before registration, I breathed a sigh of relief and, upon leaving the factory office, spotted them in front of the state-run store. KGU was pushing a bicycle, accompanying Rory Yarrow and her daughter Junjun as they shopped. The man, dressed in military uniform, stood tall and straight, exuding an air of heroic vigor. The woman wore a red dacron dress, displaying her gentle and refined nature, graceful and charming. Meanwhile, their daughter Han Junjun clung to KGU's arm, affectionately calling him Daddy Gu. To an outsider, they might appear to be a blissful family of three, at the moment. I pretended not to see them and walked straight past, but the sharp-eyed Rory Yarrow stopped me in my tracks. Little sister Naira, please don't misunderstand, it's just that Junjun has been acting up lately, always asking me where her father is, so brother Gu kindly said that from now on, he would be Junjun's father. Before I could respond, KGU quickly chimed in to reassure, no, Naira isn't that kind of person, she's the most tolerant and generous, don't overthink it. I smiled sarcastically. In my previous life, Rory Yarrow's daughter, Han Junjun, also called KGU dad for a lifetime. At first, I felt uncomfortable too. I argued with KGU several times. But each time he would say that Junjun's father sacrificed himself for the country, and that they, a widow and her orphan, were pitiable. As the battalion commander's wife, I should be understanding. Just like that, I gritted my teeth and swallowed the pain, understanding them for a lifetime. But who has ever understood me in return? At this thought, a faint smile curled at the corners of my lips as I proactively replied. Of course not. Junjun calls him dad, and I fully support it. KGU furrowed his brows slightly upon hearing this. Perhaps he hadn't expected me to be so magnanimous today, as his probing gaze turned toward me. But I didn't look at him, my eyes directly settling on Rory Yarrow instead. She had a beautiful face, and even in her 50s in her previous life, she still retained her charm, while I, due to years of toiling at home, looked somewhat weathered. No wonder she captured KGU's heart. At this moment, the shop assistant brought over the newly made clothes. With just one glance, I recognized it as the fabric I had saved for 2 years in my previous life, intending to make a beautiful dress for my wedding. Now, it was being used by KGU to compensate Rory Yarrow. At the moment, there was a hint of embarrassment on his face as he hurriedly tried to explain. Naira, don't misunderstand, it's just that Rory's clothes were a bit small. And since we had some leftover fabric at home, I gave it to her. I said calmly, it's fine, it's just that the fabric I had prepared for my wedding dress was given to someone else, that's all. KGU's face stiffened. I'm sorry, I didn't know, I promised to get you a new piece of fabric before the wedding. Rory Yarrow, with a pitiful expression, pretended to reluctantly shove the dress into my hands. Sorry, little sister Naira, here's your dress back. I'll just wear a smaller size. Looking at the clearly ill-fitting dress in my hands, I couldn't help but feel annoyed. This color suits you well, keep it. Without even glancing at their astonished looks, he turned and walked away. Chapter 3. Once I got home, I immediately started packing my things inside the house. This 2-bedroom, 1 living room apartment was a wedding gift from Grandpa Gu to KGU. 2 years ago, I moved in here with him. But truth be told, very few things in this home were truly connected to me. The only connection left is the sweaters and scarves I've knitted for KGU over the years. I never had the chance to give them to him. Now, there's no need to send them anymore. I packed them all up. Early the next morning, I exchanged it on the black market for 50 yuan. Although the factory office said the schooling would be publicly funded, having some money on hand was still a good thing. I then went to buy some things I needed to take with me before heading back. Just as I reached the residential compound, the lights suddenly turned on. Is KGU back? I was about to enter the house when I heard Rory Yarrow's gentle inquiry. Is it really okay that you gave me Naira's fabric ration ticket as a gift? Aren't you two about to get your marriage certificate soon? KGU replied, it's fine. I've already applied to the team to postpone the wedding. There's still time. I'll make it up to her later. Upon hearing this, Rory Yarrow pretended to be despondent and said, that's so nice. I really envy you all, not like me, a widow with a burden to carry. Cade, will you still take care of us, me and our daughter, after you get married? KGU replied without hesitation, of course, don't overthink it. As for me and Naira, if it weren't for the marriage arrangement Grandpa set for me, we wouldn't be together. I clenched my fists tightly, barely suppressing the bitterness in my heart. Even though I had already decided to give up on him, hearing my fiancé speak to me so coldly still made me feel sad deep down. After composing myself, I walked into the house as if nothing had happened. KGU immediately stood up. Naira is back. I specially brought your favorite braised lion's head from the cafeteria today. Come wash your hands and eat. I was slightly taken aback. This was something KGU rarely did in both lifetimes. As I sat down, I saw Rory Yao's daughter Junjun directly divide the 3 lion's head meatballs, one for her, one for Rory Yao, and one for KGU, only none for me. Seeing this, KGU directly picked up the lion's head from his bowl and gave it to me. Then the room fell silent, with only the noise of children eating. After dinner, I locked myself in my room, and before long, KGU came knocking. I opened the door impatiently, only to find Rory Yao and her mother still at home. Then KGU spoke up. Naira, Rory and her mother's house has a leak, and it won't be fixed anytime soon. I thought we could let them move in here first. This room of yours is quite spacious. Could you move to my place and let them have this bedroom? In a past life, I would never have agreed, but now, not only am I not angry, I even smiled and said to him, sure, they're the wife and daughter of your comrade-in-arms. It's only right. Anyway, there are only 5 days left before I leave this place forever. Who will live in his house? None of it matters anymore. Chapter 4. Early the next morning, KGU came back with Rory Yao and her mother, carrying large and small bags. I found them an eyesore, and coincidentally, the director called me to pick up the admission letter and train ticket. I went out the door. On my way back, I happened to run into Cade Gu's former superior, old Chen, who heard I was heading south for university. He asked me, what about Cade? Weren't you two planning to get married? I shook my head. We're not right for each other. After hearing this, Elder Chen directly advised me that, given my current circumstances, KGU would be the best choice for me. But he didn't know how much I regretted marrying him in my past life. After asking Elder Chen to keep it a secret for me, I headed home. As soon as I entered the house, I saw Rory Yao standing in front of the stove, wearing my apron. Her daughter scribbled all over my favorite tablecloth with crayons. Even KGU, who is usually a clean freak, looked at Han Junjun with adoration, not a trace of annoyance on his face. I ignored them and walked straight into the house. Not long after, KGU knocked on my door and handed me a fresh lychee. You should know that in this era, 30 yuan per jin of lychees is frighteningly expensive. Naira, I've moved the stuff out. I'll sleep on the sofa tonight. You rest well in the room. I nodded, took the fruit, and was just about to close the door. KGU hesitated before speaking. I ran into your factory director today. He said that as long as you become a full-time employee, you can be allocated a house. Naira, you see, Rory has only been at your factory for half a year, and it's not easy for her to raise a child alone. Could you give your full-time position to her so that she and her daughter can have a place to live? I think as the wife of a battalion commander, you should have this level of awareness. Consider the masses and show noble character. In my previous life, KGU told me the same thing, because I couldn't bear to part with the little home we were about to build together, so without telling anyone, I made the decision to decline the application for the government-sponsored university program. But what I never expected was that the very next day, KGU would ask me to give my promotion spot to Rory Yao. I disagreed and had a big argument with him. In the end, he had no choice but to compromise. The following year, Rory Yao took the adult college entrance examination with the sponsorship of KGU and went abroad to study. He became a highly respected professor who had studied overseas. As for me, within 2 years, the cotton mill experienced its first wave of layoffs. At this thought, I nodded cheerfully. No problem, I agree to this. KGU, upon hearing this, excitedly grabbed my hand and said, Naira, I've wronged you. Don't worry, once Rory and her daughter are settled, we'll get married. I'll definitely treat you well from now on. I nodded perfunctorily. It's fine, Jiu Yuanshan. Unfortunately, we have no future together. Chapter 5. For the next 2 days, I tried to minimize my encounters with Jiyu Chengshan as much as possible. When he came home from work, I would find excuses to chat with the neighbors. Until 3 days before departure, when I returned from the neighbor's house before bedtime, I saw the room in complete disarray, and my already packed luggage had been opened. The assessment piece that was inside has now inexplicably disappeared. Startled, I hurried to the next room, and sure enough, Han Zhenzhen was holding a pair of scissors, cutting my assessment piece into shreds and scattering them everywhere. Seeing my wide-eyed expression, she showed no fear at all. Instead, she raised the fabric in her hand and said, "Auntie, your fabrics are so beautiful. I've made them into clothes for the dolls. Look." Before my eyes, the grimy doll was wrapped in the very piece of gauze I treasured most. Right now, it's full of holes. My mind buzzed and exploded, and I snatched it away. "Who said you could touch my things?" Han Zhenzhen was startled by my sudden action and immediately burst into tears. "You wicked woman, how dare you hit me? I'll tell Daddy Jiyu to kick you out." With that, she plopped down on the floor and burst into loud sobs. Soon, KGU was drawn by the crying and rushed in from the living room. "What's wrong, Zhenzhen? Why are you crying?" He held the child in his arms with heartache, while Rory Yarrow beside him had reddened eyes. "Sister Naira, if you're unhappy about us mother and daughter living here, you can just say it outright. There's no need to take it out on the child. Nian Nian only took a few pieces of your fabric to make clothes for her doll. Was that really necessary?" With that, she ran to the portrait by the wall and began to cry and wail. "Jianya, look at this. You sacrificed yourself for the country, yet Zhenzhen and I are being treated like this." Seeing the mother and daughter crying with such grievance on their faces, KGU squatted down, picked up the torn fabric from the ground, and handed it to me. "Naira, I know how much you treasure these fabrics. I apologize to you on behalf of Zhenzhen." KGU's gesture softened my heart a little. I never expected him to take my side, but the next second, his words instantly turned my expression icy cold. "But no matter what happens, you shouldn't take it out on a child. Naira, apologize to Rory and Zhenzhen, and we'll consider this matter over." KGU's handsome brows furrowed into a frown as he spoke to me. I sneered. "On what grounds?" Behind me, Rory Yarrow cried even harder when she saw I refused to apologize. "Zhenzhen accidentally broke your things. At worst, I, as her mother, will compensate you. Is there any need to lay hands on a child?" Furious, I laughed and held up the torn fabric in my hand. "Compensate? How? All of these are my assessment pieces, stitched needle by needle over several months of hard work. Tell me how you're going to compensate for this." KGU's expression changed instantly. "Are these the fabrics you stayed up night after night working on?" I remained silent, trembling with anger. Rory Yarrow wanted to say more, but KGU settled him in the living room. He closed the door, sighed, and pulled me into his arms. "Naira, Zhenzhen is still a child and didn't mean it. You're an adult. Try to be more accommodating. I know having Rory and her daughter living here must be uncomfortable for you. I promise they'll move out soon, and we'll have our time alone again. So, be the bigger person and don't take it to heart with a child, okay?" In my past life, KGU said the same thing to me. "Naira, you shouldn't argue with a child, she's just a kid, why bother with her? But, why should I let it go, and then spend the rest of my life in meek submission, just like in my past life?" I glanced at the tattered fabric in my hand, beyond any hope of repair. Just like the relationship between me and KGU, the last trace of hesitation completely vanished. I pushed him away with one hand, then, under his astonished gaze, picked up the grimy doll from the ground and threw it straight out the window. This time, I will not yield. After returning to the bedroom and locking the door, I heard Han Zhenzhen's heart-wrenching cries from the next room. She said it was her favorite doll. KGU spent a full hour comforting her and promised to buy her the latest doll first thing tomorrow morning. Only then did she finally quiet down. Early the next morning, the three of them went out hand in hand. Meanwhile, I immediately took out my already packed suitcase and decided to leave ahead of time. Before leaving, I left a letter breaking off the engagement, along with 2 sentences. "KGU, I'm leaving, and as for the engagement, consider it cancelled. I know about your promise to Rory Yarrow and her daughter, and I also know I'm a burden to you. Now is the perfect time. I wish you happiness." Chapter 7. Afterward, I took the bus to the station and changed my ticket to the earliest available departure. Only when I boarded the train did the tension I'd been feeling finally begin to ease. I look out the window, the lush scenery along the road instantly lifts my spirits. In my past life, I wasted my years for the sake of the family, trapped within those four walls, never catching a breath. I never got to see the world outside until the day I died. Given a second chance at life, I've come to understand. Nothing can stop my steps. The engagement with KGU was never his wish to begin with, so it doesn't matter if he doesn't care about me. There are many more important things in my life besides him. This time, going to university in the South, I am representing the factory to learn the latest textile technology, responding to the national call to develop a new economic system. In comparison, KGU seems insignificant. After more than 10 hours on a shaky train, I finally arrived at the school. Jostled all the way, led by my classmates, I went to the academic office to complete the enrollment procedures. Soon, the semester began. Sitting in the classroom, I felt as if I had been reborn. In my previous life, I never had the chance to step into a university, and in the end, I died miserably on the streets. In this life, I cherish every opportunity exceptionally. Every day, apart from eating and sleeping, I spend all my time either in the classroom or by the machines, learning various textile techniques. Every time I listen to the teacher on the podium talking about the future development of the textile industry, a strange sense of bitterness always rises inexplicably in my heart. I remember in my past life, every time I mentioned my college life, Mother GU would mock me. Envious, aren't you? Rory got into university and even studied abroad through her own efforts, unlike you who can only stay at home as a housewife. But being able to marry Arcade is a blessing you must have earned over several lifetimes. What man would like a woman like you who only knows how to clean at home? Truly, you don't know how lucky you are. No wonder your own son isn't close to you. Look at Rory, how gentle and patient she is with the children, telling them so many interesting stories. Who would want someone like you? Always wearing a gloomy face all day. Back then, I truly believed with all my heart that if I treated them well, I would receive the same in return. So the more she said that, the harder I worked. Gradually, I lost myself, just wanting to earn a little recognition from them, until death. Did I realize how absurd and ridiculous this life has been? After a moment of reflection, I left all memories completely in the past, with full concentration. I threw myself into entirely new studies. Gradually, I adapted to this fulfilling and vibrant life, leaving everything from the GU family behind me. Little did I expect that an uninvited guest would barge in. Chapter 8. It was 3 months later when I saw KGU again. My classmates and I had just left the cafeteria and were heading back to the classroom. There he was, KGU, standing at the foot of the teaching building, dusty and weary, with a travel bag in hand. I frowned. What brings you here? He looked at me with disbelief until I opened my mouth and spoke. Only then was he convinced that I was Naira Meng. Since my major in college was fashion design, we had access to all kinds of the latest clothing styles for us students to wear. Additionally, due to the humid climate in the south, my skin became much fairer, no longer like before, with a sallow face full of weariness. So it's no surprise that KGU was momentarily taken aback. In contrast, he was exhausted. With an unshaven face, his unioned military uniform was crumpled, with large oil stains on the cuffs. I don't have time for this. Spit it out if you've got something to say. I snapped impatiently. KGU finally reacted, his eyes red as he demanded, Naira, why are you calling off the engagement? Didn't we agree we'd get married once Rory and her mother were settled? His voice was filled with anger and confusion. I looked at him coldly. KGU. When did I ever say I would go get the marriage certificate with you? Besides, you postponed the registration without notifying me, so I think the note I left before leaving, stating the cancellation of our engagement, was formal enough. KGU asked in confusion, why, Naira? Wasn't our engagement mutually understood? If it's because of that incident last time when Junjun accidentally cut your fabric, I apologize on her behalf. Let's get our marriage certificate after you graduate and come back. Okay, KGU finished speaking and tried to reach for my hand, but accidentally knocked the fabric I was holding onto the ground. Images of the fabric's hand Junjun had shredded flashed through my mind, and I immediately slapped him across the face. I put all my strength into that slap, leaving a bright red handprint on KGU's face. He looked utterly stunned, his face full of astonishment as he stared at me. He wanted to get angry, but after hesitating and glancing at the passing classmates around him, he finally let out a soft sigh. Naira, I know you're acting out of anger. You're furious because Junjun cut up your fabric, so I don't blame you for this slap, but children at home can't help but rummage through things. If you had properly stored those fabrics away, such a thing wouldn't have happened. To sum it up, you're also at fault. I was so angry I laughed. She cut up the fabrics I had placed in the suitcase, yet she blames me for not storing them properly. Moreover, Han Junjun was clearly acting that day, and she even made a face at me when KGU carried her back to the room, but I knew that even if I told KGU, he wouldn't believe me. I never expected him to favor me as much as he does Rory Yao, but I also didn't think he would side with that mother and daughter to make me apologize. I let out a cold laugh. KGU. Who are you to her that you can apologize on her behalf? Besides, I'm the one whose belongings were damaged, to make me apologize to them. You even went so far as to smear my reputation. You were the one who told me to give up the room. Left with no choice, I had to put the fabric in my backpack and zip it up. Tell me, how else was I supposed to store it? KGU was taken aback. Naira, I didn't. It was Rory who said the fabric was on the bed, so it doesn't matter anymore. There's no connection between us anymore. Don't come looking for me in the future. As I turned to leave, KGU tightly grabbed my hand and wouldn't let go. Naira, there's been some misunderstanding between us. Will you listen to my explanation? I never wanted to break off our engagement. If it's because of Rory and her mother, I'll have them move out as soon as I get home. Can we just make this work? I scoffed. KGU, how dare you say such things? You may not have thought about breaking off the engagement, but being with me, you see me as a burden, don't you? I heard what you said to Rory Yarrow that day. If it weren't for the engagement, we wouldn't be together. Then now, I'll grant your wish, grant the wishes of all three of you as a family. Chapter 9. As I uttered these words, I felt incredibly relieved. No anger, no resentment, truly only ease and joy. KGU, however, stood frozen in place, suddenly looking up. Naira, you misunderstood. That day, I was just speaking carelessly. I never once thought of not bringing you home as my wife. As for Rory and Junjun, you know I promised Janya before he died that I would take care of them. It's also a task assigned to me by the military. Between her and me, it's completely innocent. I swear on my honor as a soldier that there's absolutely nothing between us. In my past life, KGU told me the same thing, that there was nothing between him and Rory Yao, and that he just pitied the mother and daughter. But after marriage, Rory Yao always came first in everything. Even when our child was born later, during my difficult labor, KGU was with them, playing in the park. Later, the son I risked my life to bring into this world was gradually pulled away from me, step by step, growing distant. And then, the news of my son's marriage to Han Junjun, I only found out after the wedding was over. How ridiculous. Thinking about my past life, those days when I pretended to be magnanimous left me in tears every day. It was truly exhausting. But now, I don't have to pretend anymore, because I genuinely don't care. With an expressionless face, I looked at KGU and said, she is your promise to a comrade in arms. It's only right that you treat her well. But KGU, I can't tolerate my husband abandoning me time and again for another woman. Let it be then. From now on, you live your life, and I'll live mine. We won't interfere with each other. KGU tugged at his hair in frustration. Naira, why won't you just believe me? I smiled sarcastically. Why? Because I've experienced that kind of failed marriage once. There's no way I could ever go back. I couldn't help but think of how, in a past life, KGU once wanted to adopt Han Junjun under his name. His explanation to me was that he didn't want Han Junjun to grow up without a father, raised by a single parent like I was. He clearly knew how much I detested that matter, yet he kept bringing it up repeatedly. For Rory Yarrow and her mother, he didn't hesitate to stab me in the heart, one cut after another. Just like now, he has no feelings for Rory Yao, but before long, he will develop affection through daily interactions. At this thought, I felt a wave of nausea and had no desire to continue wasting words with him. KGU, stop talking. I've made up my mind to break off the engagement. After leaving you, I realized how truly wonderful the world outside can be. The Naira Meng who once followed behind you is dead. Go away. Let's not see each other again. With that, I turned and walked away without looking back. The next second, KGU tried to rush over and grab me, but someone seized his arm. Classmate Meng, are you okay? I saw him harassing you. Chapter 10. The person who arrived was my senior from the same department, Liang Yuanju. On the day I first arrived at Nancheng railway station, it was he who picked me up from the station. On the way, I learned that his family was also from the capital city. However, he had accompanied his uncle abroad for the past 2 years before being admitted to this university. At this moment, he shielded me behind him, glaring at KGU with a face full of anger. Comrade, you're not a student at our school, so by rights, you shouldn't be here. Moreover, I just saw you harassing my classmate. Just then, the class bell rang, and students stopped to gather around, causing KGU's face to instantly turn pale and flushed in patches. No, that's not how it is. Comrade Naira Meng is my fiancée, and I'm here to take her back with me this time. Liang Yuanju turned to look at me. Is what he said true? I shook my head vigorously. No, it's not. I had already written the annulment letter before leaving. Now, we have no relationship whatsoever. KGU immediately turned red with anger and tried to grab me. Naira, you can't say that. I don't agree to the annulment. I turned to Liang Yuanju and said, Senior, this person is really annoying. He keeps pestering me every day. Could the student union please have him removed? Liang Yuanju nodded at me and then asked a fellow student nearby to call the security office. Soon after, KGU was sent back to Beijing on the grounds of harassing students, but he still wouldn't give up. Day after day, he sent me registered letters, forcing me to go to the post office to retrieve them. In the letters, he said, Naira, whether you believe it or not, Rory Yao and I really have nothing to do with each other. Study well at university in the south, and I'll wait for you to come back before we get our marriage certificate. I'll pretend the broken engagement never happened. And I promise I'll treat you well from now on. KGU's promises have always come easily. In my past life, he told me the same things countless times. Yet in the blink of an eye, isn't it just you and Rory Yao being all lovey-dovey? After tearing all the letters to shreds, I changed the telegraph number. From now on, these letters will be sent elsewhere. Just don't bother me again. That's all. This lifetime, I will never have anything to do with him again. Chapter 11. Finally, free from KGU's harassment, I could once again focus on researching textile technology. Watching ordinary pieces of fabric transform into beautiful garments of various styles under my craftsmanship fills me with an immense sense of achievement. Besides this, there's another person who frequently appears by my side. It's my senior brother, Liang Yuanju. At first, he said he was afraid KGU might come back to disturb my life, so he took it upon himself to pick me up and drop me off every day. Plus, the campus was huge, and sometimes he would even give me rides between buildings on his 28-inch bicycle. Later, he started frequently bringing me gifts, but I never accepted any of them. I knew he liked me. After all, those adoring eyes were impossible to ignore. He also said that the resilience in me, which he found deeply feminine, strongly attracted him. I smiled without saying a word. Having been reborn, I only wanted to focus wholeheartedly on my studies. As for love, let's talk about it later. Right now, I don't have the courage to start a new relationship. Finally, after 5 years, my university exchange program came to an end. I became an outstanding graduate and gave a speech to the new students on stage. When the fashion sketches I designed were displayed on the stage, cheers erupted from the audience below. At the same time, I realized my dream. I won several domestic and international fashion design awards. After the graduation ceremony, I declined offers from foreign companies and chose to return to Beijing to pursue my career. After all, my 5 years of university were sponsored by the factory, and now it's time to go back and shine. Unexpectedly, as soon as I stepped out, I ran into Liang Yuanju holding a bouquet of flowers. He knelt on one knee and said to me, Naira Meng, I know you've had setbacks in love before, but I still want to say to you, I like you. Would you be willing to be in a relationship with me? I will love you with my life. His silent companionship over these 5 years, never intruding, has gradually made my heart succumb. Amid the teasing of classmates, my heart finally found its home. I will. Chapter 12. The next day, Liang Yuanju and I boarded the train back to Beijing together. On the way, we ran into Sister Wang from the old cotton mill, who had gone into business. She told me that KGU and Rory Yao got married last year, from his mouth. I learned that after KGU returned to Beijing from school, he rented a separate place outside for Rory Yao and her daughter, although Rory Yao repeatedly insisted it wasn't necessary to waste money and that she and Zhenzhen could just stay in the house. But KGU absolutely refused to agree, saying that it would be improper for a widow and her orphaned child to live with an unmarried man like him, as it would damage social morals. At the same time, because he went to the university to make a scene, his superior found out and gave him a disciplinary penalty, stating that he could not leave the capital without permission for 5 years. That's why he tried to write me a letter, hoping to seek my forgiveness. After that, from time to time, Rory Yao would use the excuse that Han Zhenzhen was unwell or being bullied to call KGU to their home. Once, during the Mid-Autumn Festival, they got KGU drunk, and the two ended up sleeping in the same bed. The next day, they were caught red-handed by the neighbors. It's said the incident caused quite a stir at the time, and the whole county knew about it. On top of that, Han Zhenzhen kept calling KGU daddy. So the neighbors all suspected I left because I was furious about their affair, but I had already gone south, so there was no way for me to testify. In the end, the organization suppressed the matter and ordered KGU to marry Rory Yao. After saying this, Sister Wang pointed at Liang Yuanju holding my hand and said, "Naira, you really have good judgment, staying far away from Rory Yao and her mother early on. Then I went to college in the south and even found a handsome man, I think is much better than Captain GU." I smiled without saying a word, but I thought to myself that I was lucky in this life, lucky to have been reborn before starting college, lucky to have avoided the pitfalls of my past life. I was fortunate to find someone who truly cherishes me. After getting off the car, Liang Yuanju and I took a ride to the factory office. Before graduation, a foreign manufacturer contacted me about collaborating with the cotton mill on technology, and this visit was mainly to discuss the matter. After a whole afternoon of communication and negotiation, it was decided to hold a mobilization meeting at the cotton mill tomorrow. Gather these unemployed female textile workers at home and then select a group of the most nimble and efficient individuals. When the clerk handed over the list of unemployed workers, I immediately spotted Rory Yao's name. Just like me in my previous life, she was among the first batch of laid-off employees. I raised an eyebrow but didn't say much. Early the next morning, I had just arrived at the cotton mill with Liang Yuanju. A familiar voice came from behind. "Naira Meng, you actually came back. I'm warning you. KGU and I are already married, so stay out of it." Rory Yao wore a smug expression. Suddenly, he recalled today's meeting. "What's the matter? Did you hear that our factory has designers returning today for a mobilization meeting, and now you're shamelessly trying to muscle in for a piece of the action? Don't forget, you haven't been an employee of our factory for 5 years now." Liang Yuanju, standing nearby, wanted to step forward, but I grabbed his arm to stop him. Then he spoke calmly. "Forget? How could I forget? Wasn't it me who gave you the promotion spot out of pity?" Rory Yao, upon hearing this, became furious and pointed at my face, ready to unleash a torrent of abuse. At that moment, the factory manager happened to step out of a nearby car and pointed at Rory Yao, saying, "How dare you? You have the audacity to shout at the new designer." Rory Yao froze in place upon hearing it, speaking in disbelief. "What, you mean, the new designer, is Naira Meng?" Chapter 13. Rory Yao completely changed his previously domineering demeanor and spoke to me with a fawning expression. "Sister Naira, I must have been momentarily mistaken just now. Please don't be angry. You must help us this time. In the 3 years since the layoff, our family has relied solely on Cade's allowance. It's been truly difficult." After speaking, she took another step closer and whispered in my ear, "When selecting female workers later, you absolutely must choose me." I smirked sarcastically, pushed her aside without hesitation, and entered the factory with Liang Yuanju. During the meeting, I took out the dress I brought back from the south and explained the stitching details inside. Then, I demanded everyone to make an inner lining within half an hour. While waiting, I walked around the cotton mill, the place where I had struggled in my past life. In no time, someone had already finished. After I finished selecting all the candidates, I had the clerk, Xiao Li, announce the list of those who would stay in the computer room. Not long after, loud commotion erupted downstairs. Naira Meng. Let me tell you, this is what you call retaliation. You're just jealous that I married KGU and pushed you, the child bride, out of the picture. And here I thought you were kind-hearted, but turns out you're nothing but a vile woman, Rory Yao cursed in a fit of rage, prompting the factory leadership to call security to escort her out and ban her from ever being rehired. Before leaving, I had Xiao Li fetch the lining she had made and threw it at her. This is your level, Rory Yao. Even a fresh graduate girl performs better than you, so why should I hire you? This isn't a charity. After hearing this, Rory Yao broke free from the guards, pulled out a small knife from his pocket, and charged at me. At the critical moment, a pair of hands tightly gripped the blade, blood gushed out. KGU glared coldly at Rory Yao and shouted angrily, "You're just a madman. Harassing me is one thing, but now you're hurting Naira too." Rory Yao, wounded by his disdainful gaze, crouched on the ground and sobbed bitterly. "It's all because you pushed me to this. Don't think I don't know you dream about her every day. Now that she's back, what about me? What about Zhenzhen?" KGU threw the knife aside and was about to speak when the guards arrived upon hearing the commotion, handcuffing Rory Yao's hands. She knew she couldn't escape. In these times, violating public order was a serious crime, and what awaited her was imprisonment. KGU showed no mercy whatsoever. "I promise I'll take good care of Zhenzhen." Liang Yuanju quickly stepped forward and wrapped me in his embrace, soothing my emotions, afraid that I might suffer even the slightest harm. Peering over his shoulder, I saw KGU's eyes filled with sorrow, gazing at me. "Naira, can we talk?" Chapter 14. The moment our eyes met, I almost didn't recognize him. In our past life, KGU was always full of vigor and dignity, but now he stood there with a scruffy beard and hair completely white. "I'm sorry, I've always wanted to find a chance to apologize for what happened back then. I figured it out afterwards and punished Han Zhenzhen. I was confused for a moment. Can we start over now?" I sneered. "KGU, have you forgotten you're a married man now? What's with this obsession with cheating?" KGU was stunned by my indifferent attitude, his hands unconsciously rubbing against his pants. I can divorce her as soon as I go back. Just wait for me. It's impossible now." "KGU, stop lying to yourself. Can you honestly say you've never had any feelings for Rory Yao? All this talk about taking care of her is just a cover for the love you truly feel in your heart. Without you, I'm doing better than ever, and you no longer deserve to stand by my side." With that, I took Liang Yuanzhu's hand and walked away without looking back. Behind me, I could hear KGU's painful sobs. His cries turned from whimpers to wails, from sorrow to remorse. Chapter 15. 2 years later, I became the owner of the first private garment factory in the capital city, the Balaji. Dresses we designed became household names and even made an appearance on the Spring Festival Gala. That same year, Liang Yuanzhu proposed to me, and in his eyes, I saw wholehearted love. Soon, I became pregnant. One day, Liang Yuanzhu drove me to the largest hospital in the capital for a prenatal checkup, but at the entrance, we ran into someone familiar. After saying those words back then, I never saw KGU again. I heard he took his whole family and retired early to return to the countryside. Now he's hunched over, pushing a wheelchair with his mother, my mother-in-law from my past life, sitting in it. Counting the time, she must have recently fallen down the stairs and become paralyzed from the waist down. And the one beside him must be the grown-up Han Zhenzhen. "Zhenzhen, could you help Dad carry some things? Your grandma can't move, and why should I? You're not even my real dad. Besides, that nasty old woman stinks all day. I don't want any of it." With that, she ran off. KGU struggled to carry the heavy bags while pushing the wheelchair. As he passed by me, his lowered head seemed to sense something and lifted slightly. Noticing my slightly swollen pregnant belly, KGU froze. I couldn't help but think that if he had married Naira Meng and gotten their marriage certificate, they would surely have their own children by now. Instead of being in this situation, many years passed, and I gave birth to a son and a daughter, both of whom are very filial to me. And Liang Yuanzhu truly lived up to his promise of loving me with his life. On my 60th birthday, our family of 9, spanning 3 generations, gathered together in joyful harmony. My little granddaughter insisted on seeing the roses Liang Yuanzhu bought for me. As soon as she entered the house, she said there was a sleeping grandpa in the yard. so I followed her out to take a look. To my surprise, it turned out to be KGU, only, he had already stopped breathing. Still holding the marriage certificate from back then, it reads, "I'm sorry, I no longer need it, because the roses in my arms are blooming brilliantly, and behind me stands a family that cherishes me dearly."